All right, welcome. My name is Kevin Perrington-Turner from the Asbury Park Press. I am here with Tiny Green. Tiny, how are you doing? I hope you're having a great morning.
Doing good, Kevin. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, man. I was able to speak to you before this, and like you saw both games for the semifinals for the short conference tournament, girls basketball, right?
Yep, saw both games. Great games. Exciting.
Yeah, perfect. I'm gonna just jump right into it. First game was St. Rose and St. John Vianney. St. Rose won 51-46, going back to championship since first time since 2017. Jalen Lynch had 19. Cassidy Cressy had 17. SJV was out without Taylor, but they was able to pull it out. I thought it was gonna be a close game, which it was, but St. Rose was able to pull it out. What'd you see from the game last night?
Well, look, not having Taylor is a factor, but Dawn's not going to make that as an excuse because everybody has injuries this time of year. Everybody's sore. Nobody's completely healthy. Okay,
Mhm.
so you can't use that as an excuse. But I thought SJB did a good job without her. Their problem was they did miss her lane presence because Jada got those late post ups. They got some baskets around the rim. Let's be honest; they more than likely wouldn't have got those buckets, and if they did, they would have been challenged buckets.
Yeah.
So they did miss it from that standpoint. As far as St. Rose goes, they played excellent. The problem they have, and they overcome it. They seem to overcome it every game. Um, they're only getting scoring from two players right now.
Yeah.
Cassidy Cruzy and Jada Lynch. Now, Cassidy Cruzy hit some big shots. Like, forget her 17 points. It was the timing of her points.
Mhm.
Like at the end of the game, she did take a questionable shot, but it went down. You
Mhm.
know, they should have held the ball, but she stepped up and said, "Hey, I'm a senior," and she knocked it down. So at the end of the day, St. Rose earned the win, and I'll tell you where they earned it. Late in the game when they were missing those free throws and their shot selection got shady, they still defended. They guarded. They forced SJV into some late turnovers, and SJV just couldn't get any good looks. And let's be honest, SJV were playing with Stella Lockhart and Madison coaches on offense. They got basically nothing from anybody else. And I'm not just talking about points.
Mhm.
They didn't get the assists. They didn't get the rebounds. Like they didn't get anything else offensively to help them out. So it was a tremendous win for St. Rose. Chrissy Hatfield has now beaten St. Rose and RBC in the same year. Now think about this for a minute. When's the last time a coach in the Shore beat RBC and SJV in the same year? And now she gets a chance to beat RBC for a second time. I mean, look, this would be historic if she could pull it off as a coach.
Absolutely. One thing that also I noticed is like the first half, St. John Vianney just had like a great game plan of moving the ball. And then, all right, it's time for Stella to get the ball in the elbow and kind of go to the basket. But then around the second half, like you said, things just started to stall out. He was kind of hoping for a little bit more. They didn't hit a single 3-pointer in the second half, especially when they was down 5. And it's just St. Rose just kind of figured it out defensively. Like what's your opinion on like because Don had to play some freshmen and they played well, but there's just sometimes the stages might be a little too bright at some points. Would you agree?
Without question, that game got too big for the freshmen.
Hmm.
And Dawn knew that. But Dawn has always played a freshman and thrown him to the fire. But that game definitely got a little too big for him. It's a lot of pressure on a kid to come in a game that big and play. Now, I will tell you in the first half, uh, they were moving the ball beautifully because they would skip passing, throwing the ball into the high post, moving the ball, less dribbling. And then in the second half, what happened? St. Rose tightened up their defense and they got no dribble penetration. Zero. Dinker, Bradley, Tatum, and everybody else just disappeared off the bounce. And then what they did was they said, hey, let's just stay at home on Madison. So Madison couldn't get her threes off. And then, of course, not having Taylor really affected Stella because anytime Stella put the ball on the deck, there were 2 or 3 people coming to attack her. Now, if you did that with Ashley there, she would just drop that pass off. The problem is she had nobody to drop it off to.
Yeah.
So in the second half, their offense just became stagnant, stagnant. They just could not get buckets. But that's been a problem for them, quite a few times this season. So
Mhm.
that's
Uh,
what.
before I move on to the second game, I do have one more question for like looking ahead for SJV, the state playoffs. Is it one of those things you think like, no, they'll be all right. They'll make a deep run. They'll Don will figure it out because she seems to figure it out at this point of the season, and she does have talented freshmen, and like maybe they'll you know make big plays and Stella and Taylor come back. What do you think looking forward for SJV?
Look, if Taylor comes back, they're going to make a run.
Okay.
Yeah, how far they're going to go, I don't know, because that bracket
Yeah.
is just a bracket. It's the death bracket. I mean, every good team in the state is in that bracket,
Mhm.
and how far they go is going to be depending on, like anything else, how well they play. But the real problem with them is they got to get those 2 sophomores to step it up offensively. Like Tatum Sharp and Lissy Lyons has got to give them some buckets. Now, if Ashley's not there, they're in a real deep situation because now you're talking about going to the state tournament in the toughest bracket without arguably one of your 2 or 3 best players. So it's going to be an issue. But if the 2 sophomores step up, they'll be fine. And it's not their defense because both of those kids defend.
Mhm.
Both of those kids can really pass the ball. Tatum was a menace. I mean, a menace in the front of the press. She
Mhm.
saved them twice yesterday. They were down by 5 in the first half. She came in and got in the front of the press, forced turnovers, and they got easy buckets.
Mhm.
Then the exact same thing happened again in the third quarter, and Sharp came in defensively and had an impact. They were down 5 again, and she changed the whole game.
Yeah.
2 steals, layups, pass and one to Madison Coasters. So she played a role defensively, but she has to bring some offense to the table. You're just not going to win playing with 2 players offensively.
Agreed. Agreed. I'm gonna just move on to the second game. Red Bank Catholic they beat Manasquan 60-41. Lola, Gorano had 14.
Giordano.
Giordano. Addie Nemchek had 13. Tessa Carmen had a team high 15 points, 7 rebounds. Jordan Hollowell team high 15 points. Out the second half, RBC kind of just turned up the heat defensively, what they usually do. Went on 18-5 run and kind of shut them down. Like, what is your take on that one?
Okay. So, first of all, you'd have to ask Joe Montano this. This is one of the best defensive teams in short conference history. Now, this goes back to last year when they held Paul the Sixth with basically the same team they have this year. So I believe it was 3 points in the entire second half.
Mhm.
This is the team that played Pope John in the state tournament and was up by 30 at halftime because Pope John simply could not score. This is the team that shut down SJV in the state tournament at the end of the year. At the end of last year, they were the best defensive team we've seen in ages. This year, they've kicked it up. And let me tell you why. They have shot blocking ability like no other high school. Now, you say, man, how come they're so good at shot blocking? Well, let's talk about that. They have Addie Nimchek at 6'1", long arms, athletic, power 5 player. Then you have Tessa Carmen, space eater, the best shot blocker in the entire state. Now, don't let anybody tell you different.
Okay.
She's the best shot blocker in the state. And then you got Sophie Smith coming off the bench, who just tries to block everything.
Yeah.
So you get nothing in the lane. So what do you got to do? You got to really shoot the ball well. Well, what's the problem with that? You line up Katie Leggio, you line up Christina Leggio on the perimeter, and Tessa Leggio. 3 girls who can guard anybody, and what makes them tougher is they're interchangeable. So
Mhm.
when you screen and you run handoffs and you run that back stuff, they just switch it. So it's almost impossible, especially at the high school level, to score against them. Because at the high school level, let's be honest, if you have 3 scorers, you're one of the best teams in the state. If you got 4, man, you got something cooking. You got to have a third and fourth scorer to play against them offensively. I think of two teams in the entire state who have that. One is Morris Catholic, and believe it or not, the other one is Rutgers Prep, but they're struggling right now. They're just
Mhm.
struggling. So that's the problem is scoring against them, and
Mhm.
that's what happened to Manasquan. Manasquan just simply couldn't score. And remember this about Manasquan: they are excellent half court defensive team.
Mhm.
Excellent, one of the best. You know what their problem is? They are bad, as in bad, in transition defense. They are just not a good defensive transition team. And if you watch the tape, everything RBC gets is in transition. They got a ton of 4-on-3s, 5-on-4s, couple of 2-on-1s because they just don't get back as a group. And some of that's because of their size. They're gang rebounding. So when you gang rebound like that, often instead of sending two or three, you mistakenly send four, or you send 3.5. So you get caught in transition. The ball gets thrown ahead, thrown in the post, kicked out for a three. The ball gets you go coast to coast, pull up in the lane for a jumper. They gave up everything in transition yesterday. So there you go. That's your answer. That's what happened to them yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. It seemed like the first half they, at least we had like a great game plan,
No,
and
you
like Jordan Shea, like they're shooters and they can get to the basket and they defend so well. But like you said, in that second half, like it was just tough.
listen. Think about what Lisa Kokoda has done this year, right? She basically lost everybody on her starting five other than Olivia. Now, Jordan Holloway started last year at times. She got moved into the starting lineup. But really, the kids who were the impact player on those teams are all gone. McKenna Cox is gone. Masonis is gone. Like, oh, that whole crew is gone.
Mhm.
Shannon Heine barely played. Donnelly barely played last year. Grace Stant, well, that's an old one. Grace Love barely played last year. None of those kids played.
Mhm.
And she put them all together and got the number one seed. I mean, think about that. She's had a great year. She beat St. Rose twice. And unfortunately, she caught a bad break because getting the number one seed was bad this year because what happened? They put RBC at 4. So she's had a great year. She's had a great job coaching that team, and she had a great game plan in that first half. Remember, they were only down 6,
Yeah.
and they had a legitimate shot, but then the wheels came off.
Before we go into the preview, I want to ask the same question. Moving forward for the state playoffs, where does Manasquan stand? Like, do they defend their championship?
Oh, I think there's no question they're the
Yeah.
favorite. See,
Okay.
like, look, some of those state groups, you got teams that are just way better than everybody else in the group,
Absolutely.
and they're just way better than everybody in that group. I mean, look, if they get injuries, if they have a bad shooting night, something can always happen. Just ask Ruckus Prep. Something can always happen. But I expect them to run through Group 2 and win that title.
Perfect. Well, let's get into the fun. Now we got Red Bank Catholic in St. Rose Friday evening, 6 p.m. at Monmouth University. It's gonna be a great one. Are you gonna be there?
I always show up for that one.
Okay. Perfect.
I watch
Perfect.
it on tape. I go watch that one.
Well, I'm gonna start with this. If you're RBC, and I'm only just saying this because St. Rose won the first meeting this season, so we're gonna start with RBC. What do you need to do to beat St. Rose?
If you're RBC, you are insanely concerned. And let me tell you why, which nobody wants to talk about. In that first game, St. Rose took away Addie Nimchek, and that's probably the first time a team in short history, I just said short history, took Addie out of a game. Because usually when she plays against St. Rose, she puts she goes to work on them. Let's be honest. If you check the history, she's just dominated them. So they took her out of the game. Christina Leggio, I don't know the stats, but she did not play well. And then the big thing was they prevented Tessa Carmen from dominating in the lane. Now you say, well, that's just one night. Now the way it happened was different because the game was not close down the stretch. It was not close down the stretch. Now St. Rose is really bad and bad. When I say bad, bad
Mhm.
late in games because they take wild shots and they don't make free throws. So that made that game look a little closer than what it was. St. Rose dominated them in that game. And then of course, Jada Lynch went for 40. So if you're RBC, you're worried. And let me tell you what else you got to be worried about. Nobody's talking about this. Jada Lynch has never played well against RBC. And Jada Lynch has always wanted to be considered in the same class as of a Addie Nimchek. She wants to prove to everybody, hey, look, hold on a second. I'm every bit as good as this kid. And I want my props. I want to be nationally ranked too. So she's coming in that game playing for something. She's saying, you think that 40-point explosion was an outlier? No, no, I can do this again. And I think that if I'm RBC, I'm scared of her. I'm scared. And then Cassidy Cruzy, she's just proven to be a bucket in every big situation. Like if you go back and look throughout the year, every time that team needed a big bucket, she showed up. She's been tremendous. She's going to be a candidate for my one of my all shore teams. Like she's going to be either on my first, second, or third. I can not first, but second and third for sure. I mean, the kid's been tremendous this year,
Mhm.
and you know these things got to worry RBC. Like if that game was a close game, and RBC ran that stuff and just didn't get good shots off, and didn't make shots, you'd say, okay, fluky, blah 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 blah. No, they took him out of everything. Chrissy Hadfield was in her bag. She was in her bag. So if I'm RBC, I am without question worried because everybody tried to say that when it was a fluke. No, it wasn't a fluke. It was one team playing extremely well, and now they proved it because look who they beat last night. So if I'm RBC, I'm worried.
I know I'm gonna bring this up, and I know you probably be like, it doesn't matter. But the fact that it was at home, a Catholic gym, do you and they practice on that floor, so they know that hoop. Do you think playing at Monmouth makes a difference now that it's not at home?
No, it makes a huge difference, and let me tell you why.
I think so.
First of all, St. Rose, this particular group of St. Rose kids are not used to playing in that big game setting like this.
Hmm.
They are not used to these type games. Now, RBC, every time they walk in the gym, they're everybody's World Series, everybody's Super Bowl, everybody's NBA final, everybody's NCAA final. They are used to these big games. But more importantly, they're used to these big games in a big gym. They've been in a big gym. They've played at Monmouth. These St. Rose kids have never done that. And the shooting in these college arenas are different because you have the background. The background's deeper.
Yep.
So it throws off your perception a little bit and it takes you usually a half, sometimes more. It's very hard to shoot in these gyms. The only player I've ever seen shoot lights out at Monmouth was Madison Costas when she was a freshman. She came in and won the game from SJ. I think she had 19 points, but she was electric. Everybody else has had struggling shooting the ball. And I'm not sure that big court, that spacious court, benefits St. Rose because unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you are, that arena and that gym becomes more of a college type game.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to get down the college type game between RBC and St. Rose, I don't think anybody's going to debate. Uh, RBC's got 9 Division I players. St. Rose has 2, so that's a mismatch. So you're
Absolutely.
right. Gym does make a huge difference, but more importantly, A lot of those St. Rose kids outside of Jada, because Jada played international basketball, and in some of those arenas they're packed, and she plays in some big arenas. But other than Jada, there's not another player on that roster who's used to playing in arenas, but more importantly, in games this big. This is a big game. It's going to take some time for people to run off their energy. Those kids are going to have to run off some energy first before they settle down. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle all of that.
If you're St. Rose, what do you do to stop RBC from going on an 18-5 run in the second half? Because the second half, best believe Joe's going to make an adjustment and just it's going to be effective.
They are going to have to guard because let me tell you this RBC is going to guard, and they're going to guard that high pick and screen by Jada Lynch 100 times better than they did the first game. And then when those pull up jumpers she takes, she's not getting into those. Now, look, if you ask me, and I'm not Joe Montano, I think Joe Montano might, in the past, he's always started Addie Nimchek on her. I think Joe might say, you know what? Addie, you got her. And if Addie's on her, that changes everything. Why? It's the length, the shot blocking, and then more importantly, she can't go in the post and post up. So Joe might make that switch, but I know why Joe didn't play it early because Joe was worried about the foul trouble. Because remember, Jada's gonna get in the lane. She's gonna turn over that left shoulder. Everybody knows she's gonna do that, and then she's gonna hit the floor. Now, is it a foul? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a referee, you're in a compromising situation because the kid goes down, and you got to call something. So Joe knows that's an issue. And the other thing is, not only do they have to find a way, St. Rose, to stop RBC from scoring, because they're not going to score big. Look, you go look at that first game. Jada Lynch had 40. I don't hold me to it. I think Cassidy Cruzy had 8, and I don't know if anybody else scored. I know, uh, Conforti had a big offensive rebound and a bucket, and that's the last I can remember anybody scoring. But nobody got more than 3 or 4 points.
Yeah.
So they're trying to beat a team like that with 2 offensive players. It's going to be hard. But guess what? They've been doing it that way all year. So they're comfortable with it
Yeah.
and more confident. Like they know they can beat RBC. Like they've proven it. We got the recipe. We beat them. And we didn't just beat them, we dominated them. And then we beat SJV. So they know they got the magic cooking right now. It's just a matter of whether they can put it all together on Saturday. But here's the one thing I want to say about that. When you say what's going to stop them from getting on those big runs, St. Rose has to play smarter. Like they can't take bad shots and they can't just run recklessly
Mm-hmm.
because RBC is going to press them. So if you throw over the top and just run every time, like you got to be highly efficient. I don't know if they have the players to do that because first of all, they only have 5.5 kids. Their bench, you know, and you wouldn't know this because you don't follow them in the fall the way I do. They didn't develop a bench in the fall. Like the girls they had, they didn't think had much of a future, I guess. And even in the summer league games, they played their starters the whole time. Like they didn't develop a bench. So now their bench is non-existent. So if they even get in a slight foul trouble, they're in trouble. So if you're going to throw over the top and run and play fast and do all of that, understand you're going to have turnovers. You're going to run into charges. A lot of bad things can happen. So they have to be smart and pick their spots. Or no, RBC will go on one of those long runs.
I will say though, if I had to give some pushback, I mean, last night Lizzie Mitchell and Gianna Rodriguez came off the bench, and maybe not scoring wise, but rebounding wise, they defensively they kind of stepped up. I think so.
Well, listen, if they had a health, well, she's getting healthier.
Yeah.
You know, Lizzie started as a freshman, was one of the best freshmen in the show before her injury.
Mm.
Okay, remember this kid was getting 26-point games, 20-point games as a freshman, and then basically missed the last 2 years. Now she's back and she's having some moments. Like you're right about yesterday, she had some moments. But they're going to need more than moments on Saturday.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
if she's going to come in, she's got to come in and go to work, get some buckets, like you said, get some rebound and play defense and play extended minutes. Like a 2 or 3 minute run for her, like she had the other night, that's just not going to be enough against RBC. She's going to have to give them 8 to 12 minutes. And if they get into foul trouble, you got real problems on your hand if they get into foul trouble
That's my
because you
next
literally
question.
have nobody to go to.
That's
You
my
know,
next.
Ashley
That's
Jackson's an excellent player and going to be a really good player one day, but she hasn't gotten the minutes yet to be a real factor in this type of game. So they need to find a nice, what's the word for it? A nice balance between when we're going to run and when we're going to hold it back. And then they have to make sure they play smart because you can't have 3 or 4 bad shots in a row and 2 turnovers against RBC. You do that, you're going to be in trouble. In that first game, they kept the ball in Jada's hand. And I'll give you a little coaching tip here.
mhm.
In that first game, when Jada was coming off those high screens, you know what she did? She held on to the ball. She never passed it. She held on to it. If you go watch the game, they trap her, but she keeps the ball, which is rare. Usually, when you get trapped, you throw back, you hit the foul line, but you don't keep dribbling. She kept dribbling. And then here's another thing that she didn't do, which I'm telling you, you're going to see in this game on Friday. She never rejected the screen. Like she never came off that screen and rejected it and went the other way. She's going to be doing that because guess what? Her dad's a coach. And I guarantee you, Brian's watching tape with her and going, hey, look, they know you're coming off it and holding it. So go reject it this time, especially early. If you reject it early, then they're off balance. So look, there's a lot of things in this game that are going to be interesting. But keeping it, you couldn't have said it any better. Keeping RBC off these big runs is huge because that's what they do. They shut you down defensively, and then they go play offense. Because like I said,
Yeah.
the shot blocking it leads to so many runouts. Like you get in that lane and you try to go over the top of Addie and Tessa and Smith. I'm just telling you, they're rejecting it, or they're making you take a bad shot. So we'll see. Because remember, in that first game, uh, Jada shot a lot of pull-ups.
She did.
Late in the game, she was spinning and getting to the basket, and they were just calling fouls. A lot of times, she was just flopping. But she was making jumpers. She was
Yeah.
making them pay with mid-range jumpers, mixed them with some threes. I mean, she was electric. I mean, she was just
She
dynamite.
was. She was. She absolutely was.
So we'll
I will
see.
say before I ask you to make a pick, this is my last question. But how does St. Rose keep Jada out of foul trouble? Because she guards 1 through 5. She's in the paint looking for a charge, doing everything.
I think the way to keep Jada out of foul trouble is simple. One, you do got to keep her away from them check. That's the first thing. Two, I think Jada, you tell her play smart. See, because you forget Jada, she's played international basketball. She's not your typical high school player. Her dad's a coach. Her mother was a great athlete. You just tell them, Jada, we need you out there. Play smart today. Like, I don't think you can just say we're going to hide her because they don't have the depth to hide her. Like, if they had some depth, you could hide her, but you can't hide her. And I think you just say to her, play smart.
Mhm.
But I do think you can't have her mixed up with Addie and to a lesser degree with Tessa because Tessa
Oh no.
creates contact.
Yeah.
And when you create contact, you put the referee in the position to make a call. It might be in high school, could be a really bad call. So, and you can get Jada silly fouls that maybe she'd even foul on. And then with Addie, you don't want on because why? Every time Addie sees her, eyes light up. So I'm not trying to get her fired up and get her to want to play. So I think you just say Jada play smart, take care of the ball, play smart, and I think Jada will do that. I'm like, look, man, this kid has grown so much emotionally. People don't understand that. Like Jada has become a leader, uh, more mature, more accountable for her actions and her team's actions. This is not the Jada who was a freshman a couple of years ago that, a little bit more concerned with stats and stuff. This kid wants to win now. That's her priority, winning. And that's what she's doing right now. She's winning, and she's
Mhm.
winning big right now. So everybody should be proud of this kid.
Absolutely. Well, final question: if you had to pick, who are you picking to win the short conference tournament? We're getting a new champion Friday. Who you picking?
Okay. So let me say this to you.
Hmm.
Most people don't notice. Brooke Misery, Callie Decker, Bell Alvarado, almost all of these kids play AA on the same AAU team, the same team, and they train year round together. Now, if you go watch the game yesterday against their game against St. Rose's game against SJV, what did you see on the sideline? All the RBC girls cheering like crazy for Bell and Brooke Misery. Cheering, like openly cheering. Who does that? No, but they're friends. So these kids all know each other. Like Bell and Tessa Leggio, they are boys, not just friends. They are boys. These kids are all close. So you're not going to get the intimidation factor that you would normally get. Like St. Rose is not coming in there going, "Ooh, this is SJV and they got RBC and they got all these Division 1 players." No, they're going in like, "Hey, we know these girls. We hang out with these girls. We party with these girls. We play with these girls. We train with these girls." There's going to be no intimidation factor. So you got to throw that out the window. What you can't throw out the window is this: RBC has not won the SET, and I don't know how long. See, everybody forgets that. They've won state titles. They won all. They haven't won an SET because why? SJV had Zoe Brooks first. I mean, Madison St. Rose first. No, let's go back. They had Kelly Campbell first.
Hmm.
Then they had Madison St. Rose, the greatest player in New Jersey history. And then they had Zoe Brooks. So basically, for 8 years, nobody was touching them. And remember, those kids played together. It's not like they didn't play together. They played together for 8 years or 6 years, whatever it is. And so SJV never got a taste. Then then when all those juniors that are juniors now and Tessa and Christina was sophomore, they go to the Shore Conference Championship versus SJV and give the game away. They gave it away. And if the truth be told, they had some senior issues that year because Joe had some seniors that he just had to play. Whether he wanted to or not, he had to play him. And it may have cost him a chip. Now, ready? Flashback to last year. Everybody said, oh, SJV's RBC is going to win it. No doubt about it. Well, what happened? Manasquan knocks them off.
Yep.
So they never get a chance to play in the championship game. Now they could say, oh, we beat SJV in the States. Listen, if you know anything about this shore, nobody cares about the states. You know who cares about the states? The teams that are not very good. Like if you're a quality team in the shore, nah, man, the SET is where it's at. Because why? There's been a ton of teams. Put the Mabry sisters part of this when they had all three of them. They didn't win the Shore Conference Championship. They won the state championship, but they didn't win the Shore Conference Championship because uh, St. Rose had the Clark kid and the Casey Chambers kid, and they upset them. So, and to make a long story short, RBC has not tasted an SET in years. It's different now. Why? This group of seniors are different than that last group. They're just simply better players. And
Hmm.
more importantly, they're better leaders. And they've been in these tough battles. I just feel RBC is going to go in there with a will to win. St. Rose wants to win, but RBC needs to win. They need to win for their legacy. They need to win to remind people, hey, we're the Yankees of high school basketball. And the only way they can do that is walk away with a W. And let me just tell you something. If anybody thinks this game is going to be a blowout, they're wrong. This game is going to be a war. Now, could it be a blowout? Hey, look, you can always show up at these games, and some kids could struggle, get overwhelmed. The game could get too big for them. Listen, that could happen to St. Rose. I'm not going to lie to you. It could happen. Because when those kids walk in that arena and walk on that floor and they see the depth of the shooting is a little bit different, the court is bigger, the sidelines are longer, like it could be intimidating the first time. So could that happen? Yeah, but I don't believe that. I think this is going to be a hell of a game, and I think RBC is going to come away with the W. But it ain't going to be easy. And if RBC loses, not one person is going to be surprised. Not one person is going to be surprised if they lose.
Gotcha. Well, there you have it. I'll see you there Friday. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it,
Kevin,
man.
I enjoyed that. Whenever I see you, I like seeing you around. You do a wonderful job, and I want to just tell you something. Keep up the good work because we need that good work around here, man.
I appreciate it, man. I'll see you Friday.
See you Friday, bro.
All right, man.
Bye.
Peace.
Peace.